This week's episode is in partnership with Intact Insurance, here for you and for everything you care about. Welcome back, everybody. It's the Jann Arden podcast. I just wanted to redo the jingle. Listen, folks, I know our audio doesn't always sound the greatest, but I want you to know that in the future, we are upgrading. I'm going on to like good mics. So now the crisis is over. We've all been using our headset mics, but now we are ready to move on with technology. So thanks for listening. Thanks for staying with us. We've got a great show today. Caitlin Green is here. Adam Karsh is still in his basement with his children coming and going. Caitlin looks like she's in bed today.
I am.
But you look good, Caitlin. You look so good. Did you have a nice week or what's going on?
I had a great week. I think the summertime has really turned my mentality around for probably almost everybody. Canada in the summer, especially Toronto in the summer, is such a different city. It puts me in such a better mood. I all of a sudden get a bit of sun. I don't look like a total vampire, which is my normal coloration. So yeah, no, I love summer so much. I'm just thrilled about it.
There's only like 8 weeks of it though in this country. Your eyebrows look amazing. We can see each other on Zoom, which really helps to time our conversations out. Sometimes when you're just doing audio on the phone, you're stepping on people. But Caitlin looks really good. She's in a sweatshirt. She has her glasses on. She has headphones on. But your brows are on fleek, as they say, as the kids say.
Oh, I did actually fill them in today, which is funny. I think I woke up and felt a little bit like, I should put some effort in. And so, people notice.
I did. Well, I noticed. I don't know if Adam noticed.
I noticed. That was the first thing I thought when we all joined the Zoom meeting.
So I know this happened like practically 2 weeks ago, but the pub's opening up in England. I'm still like marveling at the, I don't know. The pictures look so scary. Am I just a wimp? Like, am I a COVID wimp? Am I a scaredy cat? Are all my cautionary things just to be thrown out the window? Like, it looked weird to me.
It did look weird to me. The I think it was like Soho district in London is packed. The streets are jammed. Like everyone is out and they seem obviously very happy. And a few weeks ago on the show, we talked about that story of that Toronto bar that held the illegal, gathering indoors, and they wound up having their liquor license revoked. That was the follow-up. So yeah, I mean, that's still very much the vibe here. Like it's different everywhere, but I know pub culture in the UK is religion level strong, and they almost value, it seems like, alcohol as much as oxygen. So I wasn't like altogether surprised, but I'm with you, Jan. It freaked me out, like fully freaked me out.
Well, just you're looking at, at least I'm going to say 2,000-3,000 people in the shot that I saw. Like I didn't obviously take my pointer and count every head, but it looked like an exceptional amount of people, very close proximity. There was a couple of people that zoomed in and then they would post like the zoomed in images of 6 guys at a table, but they're obviously having a heated argument and talking really close. And I was thinking about the moist speaking and, having these conversations. You're slugging back the beer, you're eating nuts, and now you're talking and arguing or talking about Boris Johnson or whatever you talk about in the UK or how good the beer is. And you're spitting on people, which is the main way that you contract COVID is through moist particles floating through the air. Anyway, I wish them all well. I hope the numbers don't climb up. I know the UK, London in particular, has had such a time. They were doing 800-900 deaths at one point a day, and they still have a high death rate there. Anyhow,
yeah. I mean it's the conversation about, are we out of the woods? How out of the woods are we? Is going to be an ongoing thing. And I think that people are understandably really nervous about going back to any semblance of normal life, let alone getting together and, engaging in some revelry with large drunken crowds. So yeah, I mean, I get it. It's personal in a way. I just think everyone has to be cautious of public health recommendations. So they're there for a reason. And here in Canada, we've done, knock on wood, as I'm a superstitious person, but we've done a pretty good job. And the reason we're at the nice comfy place that we're at is because of all those measures. It's not in spite of them. It's not anyways. It happened because we did a good job of following the rules.
Well, like anything, I mean, this is a great sports analogy too. You can't just rest after you've scored one goal. Like the team, you got to get out there and like finish it up. So I think most people are, like, my friends are ultra cautious, and one of my friends, her daughter had her 23rd birthday, and I was like so freaked out about this. I have to keep going back on, like, am I a COVID wimp? She had 11 people in her house. You're allowed 15 here. 23-year-old something. So there was 3 full-grown adults in their 50s, and then there was 8 20-somethings. And she said they're all good kids, and they're all, really being mindful and stuff like that. But I was just like, Lisa, never mind that. I don't know. I just don't know.
It's personal, and we always have these stories about people who, the super spreading situations. And again, it's if you're following public health guidelines and you're doing the right thing.
She is. Oh my gosh, she totally is.
And that's the thing. So then you're kind of like, then it just becomes a personal choice of how comfortable you are. I mean, I have friends where they haven't seen anybody other than their, maybe their direct parents who are helping them with childcare. Since lockdown, they're very uncomfortable with it. They won't do anything more than like air high fives and hanging out on their front porch for like maybe 2 hours. It gives them a lot of anxiety to go beyond that, even though they could go further, even though they could socially see 10 people in Ontario. They could do more than they're doing. And so it's like, I appreciate why everyone has their different scale of comfort. And the morning show that I work on, we have a lot of listeners who text in and let us know what's going on in their lives. And this week we had a few who said, I'm just going back into the office for the first time. It's so nice listening to you guys on the way in because I'm very, very anxious. And this is a normal part of my routine to listen to the show on the way in. But I have got to say, I'm nervous about going back into the office today. I couldn't sleep last night. And I think people are understandably worried about, getting back to quote unquote normal.
Well, I think kindness is, people talk a lot about kindness, but I think that is important. And what Lisa said to me too, and she's I really admire her. She inspires me all the time with her sensibility. I look to her a lot. She is the head of HR for a small town here in Southern Alberta. So she's really in the know of what's happening out there. But anyway, she just said, kindness, everyone's at a different level. And I think that's what we're really seeing going forward. Everyone is at a different comfort level. And I don't think you can admonish anybody if they're not wearing a mask on their construction job, or if they're not, you just have to respect that. If it's not like completely outrageous behavior. And I do, like, my friend is flying to see her son. She's divorced, and she's going to the Maritimes end of July. She has a flight. And she says, I'm going to wear a mask, and, I'm going to do the best I can to stay calm and wipe my seat down and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But, I want to support her and encourage her. I don't want to say, God, are you crazy doing that? What are you thinking? I don't think that's the way to go forward.
Yeah. And it's, again, like, if the government has allowed, if you're doing things to the letter of kind of what's allowed and what health officials are saying is okay, then you're playing by the rules, and it's then just up to personal risk. Like, how comfortable are you with the personal risk? It would be hard for me to imagine enjoying getting on a flight personally, but I have friends where, they had family situations and they said, you know what, I got to go visit this family member. And so they got on a flight and they wore a mask and they were, probably bubble wrapped and went to Vancouver or wherever the case was, and socially distanced visits happened. And it's very, those types of things are very personal. Then you hear the stories about that, like, US couple that crossed over from Minnesota into Ontario about 4 hours outside of Winnipeg, and they were just going all around town in I think it was Fort Francis, and they were supposed to go right to, like, do not stop go, like, do not pass go, do not collect $200. They were supposed to just go right to their destination and go into lockdown for 14 days. And they're like stopping at Tim Hortons, who knows what the heck they were doing. So they wound up getting fined $1,000 each. But a lot of Canadians felt like was that really enough? Because they had clearly broken a rule. It wasn't like it was up to them to decide how this was going to work. It wasn't about their comfort with risk. It was a clear rule that border services let them know, and they broke it, and they were fined $1,000. That's like $750 US. And frankly, as I always say, if you can afford to pay a fine, it's essentially legal.
I like how you did the difference in money, and in Canadian, that's hardly anything for them.
Yeah, and wouldn't lots of Americans pay $750 just to get the heck out of there right now?
I know I would.
Yeah.
For the most part, and I'm not going to rag on the media, because God knows the media has been very good to me over the last 3 decades, and they've been somewhat malicious to me. I mean, it is what it is, and it's very based on the individual writing the piece. But I think the story in the U.S., it does paint quite a bleak picture from what we're looking at. But and Adam was talking about this a little while ago too. You know, you got friends down there, and I'm sure you've got friends down there. And
yeah,
for the most part, I think most people are trying. Because if most people weren't trying, they would see numbers literally in the millions by millions. There's a lot of good people. Like I know here, for every, Dorcas out there, there is millions of people really adhering. They're being terribly kind to each other, seeing people help each other with food supply, with making sure kids have meals. And for me, I've been really inspired by, instead of that apocalyptic thing where it's every man for himself, there might have been a moment of that fear. But when it sort of subsided after a week or so, when people realized they were going to have food in their fridge, it was really amazing to watch communities come together, and it still continues that way. Like I get teary-eyed when I see these curbside pickups of cupcakes and the way people have delivered food, and the way people have just come up with such interesting. Is that your husband?
Yeah,
he's so cute. Tell him we want him on the podcast.
He's trying to fix our internet right now.
Oh, God love him. See, I wish I had a husband. But anyway, for every kind of crappy story, I guess my point is boy, there's been some inspiring, unbelievably gratifying stories. Like just the dog shelters, the pet shelters that have been cleaned out. Anyway, we're going to be back. We've got a great show for you today. Don't go away. You're listening to the Jann Arden podcast. Later in the show, we have Irish comedian. He's so hilarious. He's such an interesting man. Podcaster. He's a writer. He has been on he's been involved in so many talent shows over there. He's guest starred on so many Irish shows. His name is Gearoid Farrelly. And I'm going to ask him to pronounce his name for me to make sure that I'm not screwing it up. But he's going to join us. But first of all, before he gets here, we need to address the Kanye West running for president situation. Maybe, do you have more information? Like, I don't understand what it means, Caitlin. He's not running in this election, because that would mean he's going, as an independent, or he's going after the leadership of the Republican Party against Trump? What does this mean?
Honestly, I just think it means he has an album coming, frankly.
Okay.
But he did, so this was over a week ago, he tweets that he's going to run for president in 2020. So yes, he was very much setting his sights on this election cycle. I presume he's running as an independent. He hasn't even submitted paperwork in, I think it's like 13 states he would have missed the filing deadline for already. So it's clearly not that real of a situation. I think he is trying to promote something, whether it's an album or a shoe line, who the heck knows. But it's interesting because right after he said it, then, Elon Musk chimes in. No surprise there either. It's like, oh, you have my full support. So it's like, oh, perfect. 2 people who should be running the country in the middle of a viral pandemic, which is posing a massive public health risk and a looming financial crisis. Well, not even looming. We're in it. So
I thought Elon Musk was a bit smarter than that. What does that even mean? I mean, it does not take much to realize that Kanye's unhinged. He's not well. He's not a well person. I don't think he's a particularly even-keeled person, steady, stable person. So there seems to be this thing happening, not just in the States either. We can't point fingers just at them. There's a lot of people running for office that have no experience. I remember being a kid thinking to myself, my gosh, if you ever want to be prime minister, you have to be a lawyer, you have to be bilingual, you have to have like a university business degree, like you have to have a lot of credentials to run. And we've seen now, not just in the United States, but globally, people that have, if you're looking at the Eastern Bloc, in the UK, a lot of the leaders really in the last 20, 30 years have not had any practical experience. They were construction people and, just laborers. So I don't know if it's a trend, or I don't know if it's just how disenchanted human beings are with politicians. So they want like a non-politician, which opens up a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, I think that the Kanye thing just seems so perfectly US 2020. I mean, that announcement came out, and then I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, but they put together a joke campaign for Tom Cruise, but it was kind of well done, like the video announcing that he would be running for president as well in 2020. And people actually believed it, because that's the state of affairs for politics right now, is that, if you're a celebrity and you have some notoriety and your household name, then maybe people will vote for you. So why not just hop on the ballot? And fortunately, Tom Cruise is not running for president that I'm presently aware of. But the Kanye thing is like, it's like, not now, Kanye. I mean, really not ever, but specifically really not now. And I think if he comes out with an album sometime soon, or he announces that he has an album coming out sometime soon,
then we'll know.
I will not be surprised.
Well, it's always baffled me that Rick Mercer hasn't run for a political office here in Canada. He's been such a great sounding board, and he's been such a voice for, every politician dreads Rick, going after them, but he's so smart. Like, Rick really is such a smart guy. He's so savvy to what's going on. He knows how it works. I don't think when Trump even got in that he actually knew what the Senate was, or what the House of Representatives was, or what a governor did. Even to this day, when he speaks, he doesn't really seem to have an understanding of who the leaders are, how the parties work, how the court system works, like I don't know. It's just like he throws stuff out there and it's always wrong. I love every time he gives a speech, you immediately have an op-ed from somebody going, here's the 25 things that he lied about or that he got wrong.
Oh, it's like Daniel Dale, who used to be a writer, the journalist for the Toronto Star, who then essentially made a transition to US. And his whole career was just honestly trying to monitor the amount of false information that was constantly being spewed by Donald Trump, and maybe some of it with intent, and then maybe some of it just because he honestly didn't know. And you're responsible for so much public speaking that if you're uninformed, you're eventually going to start saying stuff that isn't true. Yeah, that's why it was just this. It's curious to see why anybody who doesn't really have an interest in working that much and working around the clock, why you like, he'd rather be on a golf course. So I just always wonder, like, why are you even, I know why he's doing this. He's just obsessed with winning, the concept of winning versus losing and making money, and it's good for his brand, blah, blah, blah. But it's the amount of work you're doing. It's a lot. It's a lot.
I'm always mortified when I get like a fact wrong on this show. Like,
Same.
I'm always mortified. I've gone back to Adam after we've wrapped up the recording, and I said, Adam, I was wrong about who wrote that poem. Like, literally.
Yeah.
And it wasn't 1860. It was actually written last week. And imagine him going back and correcting something like that. But anyway, I won't dwell on that. It's been so interesting. I don't know if COVID was the catalyst to so much change. We've watched all these statues coming down, not just in the States. Once again, the conversation has been opened up here in Canada about, politicians that are on our $5, $10 bills that were not particularly the greatest citizens. And people are rethinking, do we want that statue up in Toronto? Do we want that statue in Vancouver? So it's opened this dialogue of people really looking at the past and wanting to correct whatever has brought us to this point today, aside from COVID.
Yeah, I know there's like a couple streets that are up for renaming in Toronto, and they're trying to sort of like bring about some positive change. And you try to find the silver lining in any sort of weird time and say, okay, well, maybe if this is going to force a whole bunch of change on us really, really fast, and while we're trying to hit the ground running here, why don't we revisit a few things that maybe made a bunch of people feel like crap?
Well, anyway, it's interesting times. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the interesting times with Gearoid Farrelly, who is a very, very funny, hilarious comedian. He lives in Ireland, and I can't wait to pick his brain about the pubs. Maybe he's got something to say about that. And a bake-off that he's been doing on Instagram for the last few months. Don't go away. You're listening to the Jann Arden podcast. I'm going to be right back with Gearoid Farrelly. My special guest. This is our first international person that we've had on this podcast. We've just been dealing with Canadians and maybe a part-time American, but Gearoid Farrelly, am I saying your name right?
100%.
100%, because we were debating before you got here, is an amazing comedian. And he's done so many things. I'm not going to sit here and list off all his Wikipedia accomplishments, but just travels all over the place. When I said, Gearoid, is there one thing that I should, just happen to mention when I introduce you? And he goes, oh, you can, mention Joan Rivers. And I have to mention Joan Rivers because you opened up some Irish shows, and I still miss Joan Rivers. I still think about her.
I know. You kind of forget that she was the foremother of all of this. Like she was doing it before women were anywhere near comedy. And she was still at the top of her game when she passed away. It was interesting because I supported her in Dublin for a night, and then a week later I did a show with her in Brighton.
Didn't you guys drive?
Yeah, we were on a bus together.
Jesus.
It was quite an experience to be on a bus with Joan Rivers. Yeah, she was so cool. And in that Brighton show, there was a new 40 minutes in the show. Like, she was turning over stuff that quick. Yeah, it was really impressive. Yeah, she was cool. Very cool lady.
I have been on your podcast. You also have a really wonderful podcast, and you've had some cool guests. Like, one of my very favorite bands, probably of the last 25 years, was Wilson Phillips.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, you've talked to a lot of people, but your podcast is great. Has that been fun for you to kind of be on the other side? Like, obviously, as a comedian, you're so used to people kind of heckling you and going after you. And this podcast has been just a great opportunity to go after other people and sort of pick their brains and figure out what makes them go. I just think you're such a great interviewer. I don't even know if you realize that.
Oh, wow. Thanks very much. Well, I mean, I've been kind of a bit savvy with that, in that when I started doing stand-up, you end up having to do a lot of things that you're not particularly good at. Like, so I did a lot of television, which is kind of, some of this is good and some of this is not good.
Yeah.
And I remember my agent saying, well, what do you want to do next? And I had this idea for a TV show where I met people that I was a really big fan of, because I thought that would be good. And then it took so long that I just started to make it as a podcast. And it just worked. So I just basically contacted all of the people that I spent my youth listening to their records and their music, and just seeing if they were up for a chat. And most of them were, which was great, including you, which was just such a thrill.
No, I had, it's one of the probably the best chats I've had in the last 10 years. For one thing, you were so freaking prepared that it kind of blew my mind. I felt like I was talking to somebody that had, this Jann Arden is your life. Like some of the stuff you brought up. Do you think it's been hard being funny during the last 4 or 5 months? I know where you guys are is not near as bad as what the UK has been going through. Like I'm probably getting that wrong. You are part of the UK, are you not? No,
we're not. No, we're not part of the UK.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Now you can see how dumb I am.
You've been cancelled.
Yeah, I've been cancelled. So you guys have done really well there in Ireland for the most part.
Yeah, we've done really well. I think one of the reasons I think we did so well was we were having a change of government. So we had an election just before this happened, but the government couldn't change. So the new government, they would have been cautious about spending the money for the supports that we need. The old government were leaving. they could do whatever the hell they wanted. They weren't in power anymore. So they literally threw all of the supports at everyone, and they locked us down for, you know, a month or 5 weeks, whatever it was. And now, and things are really good. Like, things are starting to come back. Now, the arts is the only thing that's, you know, we're all screwed. I'm going to be a postman, Jan. I've accepted it.
Well, I'll do your route with you, because people like you and I that are reliant on an audience suddenly within a few hours found ourselves wiping everything off our calendars. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't even think I'll be working live until April of next year, they're kind of thinking. I mean, it could be sooner, but I don't know. I think Canada is in about the same state as Ireland is right now. We've done quite well. The government's been great about, you know, throwing some money at some social programs. But the arts, I don't think the funding is a lot for us. Like, I don't think they're going to,
And I think when they say arts as well, they mean plays,
yeah.
you know, and theatre and plays.
Should we write a play?
I think we need to. I think that's what needs to happen, because that ain't going to trickle down to comics. So yeah, it's been strange, because obviously my tour was supposed to start in April in Ireland. So I just literally just watched those dates fall, and then, you know, you get a phone call, we're going to go next month. We go next month. So, but I mean, I'm realistic. I have dates in for September, October, but it's going to be next year. So, yeah, I think it's just about, I'm so envious of musicians, because you can write songs and stuff, you know, you can record. Whereas I was talking to some other comics, and we were just talking about how bad we're all going to be when this starts up, because we literally haven't touched it for 6 months. Like, we won't know where to start when we walk on stage. So,
I mean, there should be a lot of, there's got to be a lot of COVID jokes and a lot of divorce jokes. I know that
divorces are definitely going to happen.
Oh, I mean, I'm really glad that I'm not living with somebody through this. Adam, our engineer, you know, he's got a wife and 2 kids, and I often ask him, you know, how different it is. You've got your cat, I've got my dog, Adam's got, you know, a family. So am I jealous or am I happy? I don't know, Adam.
I think you should be happy with where you're at, because I think when you meet somebody and you fall madly in love, I think that you sign up for 3 hours of them a day. Like, it's the hour in the morning before you go to work, and then you come home from work, you have dinner together, and then you watch something, and then you go to bed, and that's 3 or 4 hours. I think 24 hours of them working, running their office from your kitchen table. That's
in that good. 3 or 4 hours, that's when you plan your meals. That's what a relationship is.
You're just constantly asking each other, so what are we doing for lunch?
I know.
Oh my God. No.
You've been doing the most fantastic thing on Instagram. You guys have to follow Gearoid Farrelly on Instagram, because I think it's been about 6 weeks, or maybe longer than that, 8 weeks, you've been doing a bake-off.
Yeah, and each week.
So you pick a recipe each week, and they're complicated recipes. You've done like Delia Smith recipes, and did you do a Nigella Lawson?
We did a couple of Nigella Lawson ones.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, for those of you that are foodies, you'll know what names I'm throwing out. They have been amazing. When we come back, we're going to talk about, you know, how perhaps you can be involved in the bake-off. Oh, we have 1 minute. So tell me a little bit about it. We've got 60 seconds before we go to our next segment.
It's basically, I post a recipe on a Monday, I bake it on a Wednesday, and people can tune in while I bake, and then you send through photographs of what you've made, and we all discuss it on the Thursday.
So you get different judges every week, and you've had some really great people judging. And you just look at the photographs, and then you go from just the photograph?
Yeah, and you can follow the recipe and follow me making it on the Wednesday, and mine is usually terrible. That's what I console people by saying, mine will be the worst. Trust me, it's fine. You don't need to be worried.
What do the winners normally get, Gearoid?
Well, they haven't got anything yet, but they've all arrived. They'll get a wooden spoon with "Bake Along" inscribed on it by me with a wood burner. And I'm afraid I bought a wood burner from a dodgy Chinese site, so I'm sure I'll burn my house down when I'm trying to do that.
No, every kid, I love my wood burner. I had a wood burner as a kid, and I just wood burned everything. I remember being in so much trouble for like wood burning the leg of the kitchen stool, and wood burning something into the floorboard, and wood burning the hardwood. And really hilariously, your cat Boots, who I get such a kick out of, Boots needs a Boots Instagram page. That's my feelings. But you had this beautiful looking, I don't know if it was a lemon cake or what the hell it was, but you turned your back for 2 minutes and Boots literally, you were taking your neighbor a slice of cake to drop off, and Boots removed the top layer of the cake.
Yeah, she just basically pushed it over. Yeah, that's just classic Boots. Yeah. She's my cat. I've had her for maybe 3 years now. And she is just the best. And I used to hate cats. I really hated them. But she is just my sun and stars.
Well, we're going to talk more about that when we come back. We're talking to my friend, Irish comedian Gearoid Farrelly, and we're going to just talk about the pubs opening when we come back, because I want to know all about what he thinks of that. You're listening to the Jann Arden podcast. I'm talking with Irish comedian Gearoid Farrelly, who Joan Rivers said was the best opening act she ever had within that price range, which really makes me laugh.
Yeah, that was my introduction.
So on the break, you were talking about, borrowing against your mortgage and buying a piano. It has been, but that's so great. I mean, we got to do stuff to keep our minds and we have to keep our spirits bolstered. So good for you.
Yeah, well, I played piano when I was a kid, and I was terrible at it because I used to play, I used to just do the exams. So, I was always jealous of people that could go to a party and busk, whereas I would be like, does anyone want to hear a gavotte?
Does anyone want to hear scales?
Yeah. A minor contrary motion.
Yeah.
So I did on my old sheet music, and I've spent COVID learning the theme tune to Murder, She Wrote. God, Angela
Lansbury, she'd be on board for that.
Oh yeah, one of my friends said that what I should do is when I have it done, and done as in played the way I play it, which would be badly, I should reshoot the whole opening sequence, which I just might do.
Angela is still with us. She's got to be 92 or 93.
She's amazing. She did a big interview here about maybe 2 years ago because she has a house in Cork. And it was in a theatre in Dublin, and she was incredible. And she sang a song from Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
So she would have been 90-ish then, would you say?
I think she was 89. I think she was 89 when she did it.
And she sounded good?
Yeah, she just did a verse and a chorus, just sitting down, and it was, oh God, the audience.
But she clear-headed?
No, it was just, she was very, she was just nervous about it, but they just asked would she do it, and she just said, okay.
Oh, I don't even mean about the singing part. I mean about the interviews.
Oh, clear. Oh, yes. Yeah, completely clear-headed, and remembered everything, and was able to talk about filming The Manchurian Candidate back in, whenever that was,
Manchurian
70
Candidate.
years ago.
How old are you? 72? No, you're a young man. You're 20 years younger than me, I think. What is the Irish sort of take on what's going on in the United States? Like, I don't know if you guys are like Canada and how we talk about it and sort of look at it, shaking our heads. What do you guys think over there?
I think it's kind of terrifying because I think if you're Irish, you always accepted that thing because we were a small country. You always accepted, well, that the United States was the leader of the free world. They were what everyone should aspire to, and to see it fall the way it has.
I know.
It's it's absolutely terrifying. It really is. Like I find now that when I'm talking to my American friends, I almost feel like I'm starting to patronize them a bit because I'm saying, like, how are you?
No, but really.
Are the streets burning? It's really bad. And we're lucky because we've had good leadership, and they've been critical of them, but we did have, a gay man of Pakistani descent as our prime minister for, I think it was 6 years.
That's something else.
It is in a country that is still very
Who
Catholic.
would have thought? I know, who would have thought when you look at the history of Ireland in the 70s and the 80s and how tumultuous it was between the Protestants and the Catholics, and to have a gay, Indian man, running the country. That says a lot about how far we've come. And you keep thinking, gosh, even in the States, the European Union saying, we don't want you traveling over here. So we're they're opening the borders up to other countries, but not to the US because of, I guess, just their take on it.
It's really scary. And I think it must be really difficult for Americans to accept that position, because I just hope they vote. I hope it leads into their vote now at the end of the year, because they just have to get rid of that guy. he's just a pits.
Well, it's certainly, we talk about it here quite a bit, just how COVID has sort of cracked the veneer on so many social issues. So it's gone far past the pandemic and how it's affecting our health. It's cracked open all these divisive social issues, and he's just looked more Looney Tunes as time has worn on. But he's got a fan base, and I will call them a fan base, because it really is. I don't even know if they understand anything about the politics. They just want to make sure that whatever he's doing is in, their favor, and that the rest of the people can go to screw themselves.
And you wonder. I'd love to. I'm sure somebody's done this, but I would love if they had spoken to somebody that was voting for Trump 4 years ago, and if they kept in touch, and spoke to them in 10 years, even just in a second term, like how what did you get out of this? Because everyone's just been sold a pup there, because
that's your new idea for a show. You, Farrelly, you need to get out there, hop on a plane, mask yourself up, get your hazmat suit on, and go hit the frickin' streets of Chicago and just say, did you vote for Trump last time? How's it going? What do you think?
Yeah.
Like, that would be such a great show, to have this Irish comedian bloke coming over and asking them all these pressing questions. I always say, I was talking to a friend a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I wonder if half of his followers, like that's even generous, know what the Constitution is and what it actually means. If they know what the First Amendment is or what the Fifth Amendment is, like I always think that.
I know, and whatever, even leaving aside the politics, but if you just look at the man, like if you just look at the hair, there's just something to be said for that. It's like, it starts with the hair, because even Boris Johnson in the UK, it's like, I think that's the key. Like, if somebody can't comb their hair,
they can't comb their hair. Well, there's a lot of similarities between Boris and Dawn's hair. There seems to be some kind of theme there.
I think it's the Emperor's New Clothes with peroxide, really. It's just, there's a really bad hairdresser that's really highly priced that's doing politicians.
Did you hear the rumors in the past few weeks of Kanye West wanting to throw his hat in the ring? Caitlin, one of the woman, the wonderful girl that does these podcasts with me, she was saying, he's got to have a record coming out.
That must be it. It's just so crazy. But I mean, I get where he's coming from, because I think if you are looking at Donald Trump, you would think, well, if he can do it, I mean, like Boots could do it. If he could do it, I'm sure Boots could do it. She'd be more discerning.
What is it like just working from home on your comedy? Because obviously you were saying a bunch of your colleagues are talking about, my God, when we finally do step back on that stage, it's going to be so rusty. And of course, I would imagine a lot of the context of your shows, it'll be the elephant in the room, Gearoid, if you don't step out on that stage and talk about what the hell has happened to us this past year. So what do you think? Do you lie in bed and think about what your show is going to look like, what the vibe is going to be?
It's strange, because I know that I'll be playing bigger venues with smaller numbers. So they're, at the moment, for socially distanced shows, they're talking about 100 people in a 400-seater venue.
Okay.
That's going to be weird. But also, so I think it's going to be to the forefront of people's minds. And it's kind of making the call. Do people want to hear it, or do they just want to escape it? It's a really weird line to walk. I think, like my show, bizarrely, the 1 year I write a show like that, it details, it's about science. There's some stuff about science in it.
Your one-man show that you did dealt with science.
Yeah, well, the new one, Alchemy.
The new one. Show. Oh, yeah. Great.
So there's a part of me, like I've done it a few times before this happened, but there's a part of me that thinks, God almighty, like a global pandemic happens when you're about to tour a show about science. So it just, like, I definitely need to address it and put stuff in. But yeah, it's going to be so strange.
But maybe it's addressing it and then going into alchemy, because the show was so new. You didn't really have a chance to lift it off the ground. I think if we address it, much like this podcast that I'm doing, you know, now we've spent the last 3 months, because we sort of started going right when this happened. So we're like, how can we not talk about it? There's been a few shows where, you know, we've had some laughs and veered away, but we feel like people have wanted to kind of keep, not have it newsy like statistics or anything like that, but more from a human approach. And I think you're so great at doing human humor, like just really day-to-day human humor.
Well, that's my favorite thing. My favorite thing is people, and like the little things that make people tick. And even listening to this podcast on the beach, I've loved the way yourself and Caitlin talk about the little things that are going on in your lives. Like a few weeks ago, I think Caitlin was talking about the fact that she'd bought loads of corn. She had like a fridge full of corn. And that's what's happening, because like I think that you don't realize you're doing these things. Like every time you go to the shops, you're buying the Christmas grocery list, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's great. I think it's a great touchstone for people to have that, to know there's other people, even so far away, over in Canada, and doing well.
Oh, I mean, I've enjoyed, like, I go on to your live stuff a lot on Instagram, and not just for the cake judging portions of the show, but sometimes you're just on there and I have a laugh, you know. You and Boots are just talking about things, and I've been so curious to have a glimpse. It's very voyeuristic, isn't it? To glimpse into people's apartments and their lives when they're on live. But you've been so positive through all this. Like, even for me, just seeing you in Ireland and your pictures of downtown shooting over your balcony and watching your plants grow, I felt very voyeuristic, but very comforted.
Yeah, it's that thing that you get to see into people's homes. I did a TV interview here about a week ago, and I realized that behind me I had a postcard with a picture of Boots that my mom had given me that said, it was basically, we'd gone on holidays, she was minding Boots, and it said, "Fuck you and your holiday," across the front. And I realized that it was on TV behind me.
Well, there's been people with no pants, people going to the bathroom on their Zoom calls. There's been all kinds of things. Listen, continued wellness to you, Gearoid, and don't ever think that you're not doing so many positive things, because you are. It's been wonderful. I might join in one of your cake bake-offs.
Oh, I would absolutely love that. And also, it has to be said to thank you, because I first found your music a long time ago, around the time Happy came out.
Yeah.
And you have spoken to people who are misfits and other all across the world, and given them so much in the past 20 years, right back from the time when you were writing blogs on your website. So thank you for that on behalf of everybody, every one of us who has enjoyed that.
Thank you so much, and let's chat soon. That's all the time we have. I don't know where it went, but thanks for listening, everybody. Gearoid's podcast is called Fascinated.
That's right.
And you can listen to it wherever your favorite podcasts are played. We'll see you next time, you guys. Toodly-doo.